at WHP.
All advice given is for general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Hey, welcome back. Carl Rominger here. I think I want to do a Savage. I'm just going to walk out of here in the middle of the show and let you guys hang. And I can't wait till they put him back on the air. And I guess he's going to be somewhere else, re-syndicate. He's coming back in a year or somewhere. But he's insufferable to start with. But can you imagine, like, I told those no good, dirty, rotten scoundrels how I felt. And look at me. I walked away and now I'm richer. Anyhow, I've got Mark Virginis with me. Mark, how are you?
How you doing, Carl? I'm doing well, thank you.
Hey, I got my little disclaimer out of the way, so I know you got to give one because of the nature of your industry, so throw it out there, brother.
Great, thank you. I'm an investment advisor representative offering securities and advisory services through Financial Network Investment Corporation, member SIPC. Mirrors Financial Partners in the Financial Network are not affiliated. I don't give tax or legal advice. So there you go.
All right. Hey, well, while I've got you here, I got Jeff on the line. You want to talk about performance bonds?
Yes, I have an idea for a new type of performance bond which would generate revenue for the city of Harrisburg.
Okay.
And I'm trying to get a hold of Mr. Lynch or somebody to help me implement this. And they generate millions of dollars because they're a entity that can issue tax-free bonds. People would buy these. The city would get interest or get money from this interest-bearing thing, and people would get tax-free bonds. How do I do it?
So how does this work? What's the theory?
Well, a performance bond, people have issued these years.
Right.
They issue them to build power plants, and they issue them to build airports.
Right, and they did not get performance bonds for the incinerator, by the way.
Right. But they still could issue a performance bond on some other entity that would actually get money for the city. The performance is we're going to get money for the city. And like people have issued bonds, and they have all kinds of ratings. The most famous ones I know of were called whoops bonds because they were for Washington Power Systems, and they defaulted. So these are bonds that people would gladly buy into, and I could generate money for Harrisburg continuously with this bond.
Don't you have to pay the bond back off at some point?
Well, a performance bond can be paid off in various ways, and we're going to pay it off as part of the entity they're buying.
On the parking garage.
Well, I didn't say the parking garage. It's a different entity. But, the question is, how do I create this?
I think you need to get hold of Mayor Thompson. She can help implement it immediately.
Well, I actually have been trying to get a hold of Mr. Lynch, who's the receiver.
Right.
I sent him.
Who's really in charge?
I don't know, but essentially, I think I could generate millions of dollars and no new taxes. And the big point about it is, it's not the people who are going to lose out. Is it would be tax-free revenue, so this would be revenue that somebody would get that no longer is taxed.
My advice is write a letter to Lynch and lay it out to him and CC it to the Patriot.
Well, I tried contacting the Patriot news reporter who wrote the story on Thursday's meeting, and he didn't respond to me either. So I'm just telling you, I have an idea.
Well, word's out there, so I recommend outline it in writing and send it to the relevant parties and see what happens.
Yeah.
Let Mark jump in here for a second.
Yeah, see if you could find out who their investment banking firm or their financial advisor is. I think I know when Reed was there, it was RBC, Royal Bank of Canada, RBC Dane Rasher. I'm not sure if...
Who issues municipal bonds for Harrisburg right now?
Well, the financial advisors want to take them to market. I know RBC used to be the financial advisor because Mayor Reed used to he had a buddies with somebody out of the Philadelphia office for RBC. I don't know if they still, or if it's, what's the other name of the group? I forget. But
TD Bank was one that...
All right.
All right. I'm just trying to find somebody to respond to me and tell me I'm out of my mind.
Well,
or...
write it up, summarize it, and get it out to as many people as possible, and put it in writing. I don't know. I'm not sure how that's going to work out for him, Mark.
Yeah, I mean that's. I mean, I know what he's talking about. I've heard that before. It's going to be a little bit messy for folks to grasp, and but that's really going to come from the investment banking world. Where people are going to be able to model this and bring this to the public and make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. But you're right, the whole incinerator build didn't have a performance bond on it, which is asinine in my opinion.
Right, and which is the complete reason for the state that they're in for all intents and purposes.
Right, they can't go back for anybody. There's no insurance on it. And yeah, you're absolutely right.
Oh, my goodness. George, you're on with Mark and Carl.
Okay, maybe you guys can give me a little guidance. I'm just trying to understand because I haven't gone through this. I went through about 10 years ago. I had damage on one of my buildings, and I sort of got raked by the insurance company at the time. I won't mention names of insurance companies or anything, but I felt that they really undercut what I should have been paid for the damages on the house. Now, these are rentals, and they're residential houses. The one I had in this last storm blew the roof off, rolled it back like a like a sardine can almost. But water came through the third floor and it went down the walls, ceiling bowed. The rug's wet. I've got stuff up there to dry it out, so hopefully we don't have mold. I got it within 72 hours. That's a big thing. But when they come in and do the adjustment, short of getting a public adjuster, which I don't want to do because honestly it's probably not good for the insurance company. It's probably not good for me either because I got to pay them out of my pocket too. Mm-hmm. But what kind of guidance would you give? How do I know? How can I do that? What are my rights? What I can what I got to look out for here?
This is the answer. I mean, if you have a adjustment issue. Has the insurance company been out already?
Not yet. They're coming out.
Okay. The first thing is just let them, look things over and see what they come up with. And if it seems good, and if you're knowledgeable enough, you might be able to say, they say, well, we need to fix this, we'll take care of this, and your deductible's this, so here's how much money it's going to be, and here's how we're going to do it. And you're happy with it, I guess there's nothing else to do. But you have to watch for coverage issues. You have to watch for making sure you point out everything, make sure they actually look everywhere. If you have some kind of damage that's hidden or where water is able to soak into something you can't see, or an apparatus that you don't use all the time, all those things have to be ferreted out while you're doing it. I would say generally it might behoove you, if you're not going to get a public adjuster, to at least get your own contractor in there.
Well, I've had a roofing contractor, but I haven't had time to get them in to look at walls and ceilings and any kind of water.
Right, and you might want to do that just so you have an independent, because while it's the insurance company's duty to pay the claim, they may not go the extra mile to figure out what the claim is.
Right, and that's sort of what I'm concerned about. Is let's say they come in though, and they give me a number, say for this damage, and I have some guys come in and they go, this is way off. It's going to cost this much more. Right,
and that's why I wouldn't settle the claim with them right off the bat. When they give you a number, then I would make sure you have an understanding that that's a preliminary number subject to revision based on what actually happens.
Okay.
Or your mechanic or engineer or whoever comes in and says, or contractor says, hey, this is it. Everything's fine. This will cover everything. And there's nothing hidden that we're likely to encounter. But I would just be very careful about that. It's not unusual to have the claim open like that. In other words, you don't literally sign a release and take the money.
Okay, so that's the next step. What is signing the release here? When they give you I'm assuming they'll send you a check, and if you cash it, that's it? Because I've had that. That's sort of what happened last time. I got a check,
right, and that's the answer. You get a check, you sign it, you're done. But maybe it depends what the language is. It depends what the understanding is. So it's possible. Here's a punch list of what's going to be done. Here's a check based on the estimates for that. But we're not closing out the claim. So if there's other damage that's discovered, we can go back and renegotiate it. So I would just keep your options open until you're sure. So you're sure there's no other damage that's going to be discovered. What do you think, Mark?
That sounds about right to me. I mean, this is more your line of work.
Yeah, no,
mine.
I understand, but I mean, it's something we've all dealt with, and it's one of those things where, again, you just don't want to sign on the dotted line where it says, I forever release the claim and here's how much money I'm accepting, unless, and here's the time you would do that. If you determine that your insurance policy, for instance, is only for $25,000, let's say, and they offer you $25,000, well, then you might as well take it.
You're done.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, my friend.
Thank you for your help and guidance.
Good
You have
luck.
a good one.
Got to go to break, guys. All right, Mark. Got Mark Virginis here with me. He joins us to talk about all things financial. Mark, if and since I know at some point somebody's going to say, how can I get hold of Mark? Let's just preempt him here and you tell him.
Great. Thanks a lot. You can reach me at 717-509-4521, or you can find me online at Mirus, and that's M as a Mark, IRUS, MirusFinancialPartners.com. Even if you get it halfway right, Mirus Financial, into Google, you'll find my firm and bring me up. Or you can go on Facebook. Last name is spelled Virginis, V as in Victor, ERGENES, so they can go to your post, and you'll see that I comment on your post from time to time,
Oh, yeah.
what have you. So, especially that bow tie you're wearing, talking to who are you talking to, by
That's
the way?
Dick Morris.
Dick Morris, that's right. Now, where was that?
I was at a military cigar dinner that I was at.
Oh, okay, that looked like fun. But
I got to give the toast to the Marines. They didn't have any real live Marines there, so they said, "Well, you're a lawyer. You know how to make things up as you go. So give the toast to the Marines."
Nice. But looked like a good event. But yeah, you can find me that way too. Any question goes on the air. It's just if you have something more personal or you want more in-depth approach to it, then of course just grab me offline or give Shane a call at the studio, and he knows how to get a hold of me as well.
Well, that bow tie I have on in that picture, so if people want to see it, just got to go to my Facebook page, and you can see me in the bow tie. That bow tie is the first bow tie I ever tied, and I can tell you there's a lot of effort wrapped up in that thing.
Yeah, that's exactly why I don't wear them. I'm worried they're going to look bad.
It was a lot of work. Oh, boy. Let's see who we got here. Oh, Shaney, who do I got? I got to look at this up. Matt, you're on with Carl and Mark.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Good.
Hey, I'm a local business owner, and I have this guy that purchased a vehicle from me,
Okay.
and he wrote me a check for darn near $15,000, and this was 4 months ago, and it bounced. So I sent a constable after him. The constable was unsuccessful. We did all of our notifications, and then we contacted the police department.
Uh-huh.
That was probably 3 months ago that we contacted the police department. And every time I call the police, all I get is that they're investigating it. And I'm just getting frustrated here. The guy broke the law, and I can't seem to get the police to do their job down there in West Shore Regional.
West Shore Regional, yeah. I would go to the district attorney's office at this stage.
Okay.
And say talk to them, and they'll do one of two things. They'll either bump the police, hey, get on this, or they can take care of charging it themselves.
Yeah. I mean, I think if the guy's put in a corner, his family can come up with the money, but he hasn't been put in a corner yet, and they just seem to be ignoring me. And what really irks me is I have a friend that has a problem with, somebody on the city council, and they'll jump right on their problems.
Right.
And charge, they charged him with some sort of a, harassment or something like that in about 3 days because he has a problem with the one woman on the city council, and it's just very, very frustrating.
No,
I'm out $15,000, and I'm mad.
And is the guy driving the car?
Oh, yeah, it's in his name. I can't do anything about it.
I know you're real mad then. All
Yeah.
right. So call the district attorney's office tomorrow morning, Monday morning. And,
Okay.
You got him. You got the district attorney until election day, right? So you can say, "Hey, I want to vote for you, but I need to know what you're going to."
Yeah, exactly. I'll call him on Monday, and maybe then I'll call the Patriot on Tuesday.
All right, my friend. Good luck.
Thanks for your help.
All right. 540-0580. Carl Rominger here with Mark Virginis. Mark, what should we be thinking about? It's almost the election season here. What should we be thinking about in terms of finances? How's this election going to affect the markets, and what we should be thinking about?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, and I try to tell people don't look to do a trade or to do a new financial plan right after the election. Plan on like the next 4 years of a financial plan, because the main thing that I'm telling my clients now is the financial cliff, regardless of who wins on Tuesday or Wednesday morning or whenever we're going to know who's going to win. You have the financial cliff coming, which means Bush tax cuts go away come January 1st, 2013. Draconian type of cuts come to of government spending start happening. So you're going to basically see a lot more people being laid off, and the Congressional Budget Office already told us we're going back into recession if those cuts take place. So right now what I'm trying to tell everyone is not to take any sudden moves. There's nothing to do before the election, and probably won't be anything to do right after the election. It's more you're going to have to sit and wait and figure out what tax policy is there, because everybody saw the market on Friday. It basically gave back what we made on Thursday.
Right.
And that's people just positioning themselves, getting ready for Tuesday. They're just taking profits if they could take profits now, because this $64,000 question is going to be who's going to win. Wall Street right now is handicapping a Mitt Romney win. I can tell you that much, because the more discussion is about who's going to be his pick for Treasury Secretary, who's going to be his pick for head of the Fed, and so forth. So they're kind of showing their hand a little bit, thinking it's going to be a Romney victory. I'm just not so sure about that. So right now I'm just telling my clients, hang tough, let's communicate with each other, and you tell me, has your financial situation changed? Has your goals changed?
Mm-hmm.
Has your, and then the same thing you do every year is tax harvesting. You had some things that made some gains towards the end of the year. Let's go ahead and take some money off the table, because capital gains and dividend, all that stuff goes back up to ordinary income.
Right.
So if you have taxable investments, oh boy, you want to meet with your advisor, your planner, and do some, like I said, tax harvesting, or is there something I can get into that is a tax-deferred vehicle that looks and smells like what I'm in right now, because I don't need the money. And there are those products that exist. But yeah, I think communication is going to be real key after Tuesday with your financial advisor, stockbroker, whoever you're using.
And obviously, we're going to have a lame duck period. And so if Obama wins, I guess it's business as usual, except to see how the Congress and the Senate shake out. But if Romney wins, then we have a lame duck presidency for a while too. So then,
yeah, I mean, it's interesting how that's going to play out, because I don't see the Republicans picking up the Senate unless you see otherwise.
No.
So we're still going to have a Senate and a House split. So it's still going to be difficult for Romney, if he wins, to get whatever he wants to get through. But again, if Obama wins and he's in his second term, knowing full well it doesn't matter if he gets reelected, it's going to be real interesting who's going to be jostling for position on the Democratic side, who wants to make a run for the White House in 4 years. I do think the economy comes back, albeit 2014.
Right.
So I do see.
Now,
I could see Obama saying, "I don't want Romney to get the credit," and I could see Romney saying, or the Republicans saying, "I don't want Obama to get the credit." So,
Dick Morris was saying last night that we're in a cycle here. He believes that we're on a 60 or 70 year cycle where the stimulus didn't work and all the debt spending didn't work because nobody was willing to spend the money, because everybody thinks that the country's debt load is getting too high. And banks are afraid that they're going to be declared insolvent if some of their loans go bad, so they're not giving up any money. So all this stimulus, and as a Rush would call it, porculus, is really just going into people's hands, but nobody's ever pushed it through the economy because everybody's afraid to hold on to it, and everybody's paying down debt personally, but they're not spending.
Right.
And he believes that, the rest of the world, things would improve if the message was sent, we're going to stop just borrowing money left and right. We're going to stop the increases in our spending. He thinks that's what Romney would signal. But I think there's a chance that Romney's not going to be able to make substantial cuts to the budget anyhow, because the president doesn't really make the budget.
Right. Yeah, it comes out of the House, got approved by the Senate. You're right. It's an interesting point you bring up. And there's a lot of folks out there. I mean, we're nowhere near the situation that Greece or Spain or any of the other countries over in Europe are. However, to validate your point, wouldn't we have inflation if that kind of liquidity and that kind of money that was given into the system was actually moving around the system, because as we said, inflation is velocity of the money moving through the system, and it's obviously not. So if we do get that money starting to be spent or borrowed and loaned and so forth, shouldn't we have not even inflation but hyperinflation?
Right.
And there's the argument. If Romney gets elected and everybody thinks this is utopia now, hey, we got a businessman running the country, it's what we need, and all of a sudden banks open up, he deregulates certain things, we could see hyperinflation come back pretty quickly here, because when it happens pretty quickly, because don't forget, the government tells you after it's happened.
And the other problem is, I mean, if you think about it, it's sort of like all that money's been pushed out there. There's no good mechanism to suck it back.
Correct.
So there's no way to instantly. The only thing you can do is start to raise interest rates, I guess, to try to slow down the lending.
Right. I mean, if you look at the last 50 years of the S&P 500, it's been up only 5.7% total return since whenever you have a split Congress, i.e., House and Senate are two different parties. But as of the close of trading this past Friday on the 2nd, the S&P is up 14.5% with 8 weeks yet to go. And again, you had the whole split in the houses, so isn't that something to tell you? We're trending way above the norm.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I tell my clients, QE1, quantitative easing, QE2, QE3, you had TARP, you had everything in the world. I said, these are sugar highs. I mean, the government's telling you we're going to suppress the yield, we're going to suppress the return of the 10-year Treasury. Right now, about 1.7. We saw it down about 1.5. They're telling you better get into stocks if you want to get any return, or dividends, or what have you, want any income. They're kind of forcing you to take a little bit more of a riskier trade.
Right.
So telling you right now, CDs are going to stink, or as I call them, crummy decisions. That's what CD stands for. Money markets, all this stuff stinks. If you're someone who's using your portfolio for income producing, you're going to have to go to equities. And the government said, don't worry, we're going to do some QE, we'll do some bond. We got your back. The 10% correction that you guys all think is coming in the market, it'll be like 4 or 5%. Don't worry about it, because, hey, we're the government. We're going to backstop this. That's my interpretation of all things QE and everything the government's doing. Right. It's kind of forcing you to take a more riskier trade.
Hold on here, Mark. We're going to go to break.
Sure.
Hey, welcome back. Carl Rominger here. So, Mark, I was reading on Facebook a post by a girl who said that she was called by the Obama campaign this morning and had no less than 2 people knock on her door to ask if she would vote for Obama. So there's obviously not some coordination, but it looks like they're definitely canvassing. That was down your way in Lancaster County.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely are. I mean, I actually did, full disclosure, I'm Republican. I did some phone calls for the campaign, and highly sophisticated on that phone bank, highly sophisticated. And I actually came across a name that I knew. And I'm talking to the person, and they said, hey, just put me down as undecided and tell them I voted for Obama last time. Just want to mess with them a little bit. I said, you know what's going to happen. Your name's going to go back into the computer as undecided, and you're going to get barraged by everybody.
Right.
And he goes, yeah, it'd be fun for a while. Go ahead. And when I get tired of it, I'll just tell them I'm voting for Romney. We'll move on.
Tell me I want to ride to the polls in a McDonald's sack lunch.
But the other question is, and I'm sure Durgan probably wouldn't discuss this, is you think about all this money that was spent and people gave to these campaigns. I mean, I heard some, just outrageous numbers. And then you have all this devastation in New York and in New Jersey and in the economy and so forth. And you just wonder, boy, could we have put that money that we're giving to all these politicians to better use? Yeah,
all these yard signs, it's not exactly helping build the industrial base.
Well, here's a good criminal. The Lancaster paper is just reporting they just grabbed the guy. He was going around taking Romney signs off and running to a car where his friend was waiting, putting the Romney signs in there, not putting Obama ones out, but just stealing the other ones. Police caught him because the police saw him do it, and so now he's being charged by the police. Is that a misdemeanor, or would that be a felony?
It's a criminal mischief issue. It could be a theft issue as well. The value of the sign probably makes it a misdemeanor. But if you stole enough of them in one episode, I guess if you can come up with a big enough number, you could get to the felony. But it'd be over $2,000. Well,
it was funny because the guy who didn't want to release his name, who was the property owner, said, we heard some people on our block, it happened on Halloween. We thought, okay, it's a Halloween prank. He said, but then you come out and you see, like, every Romney-Ryan sign on the whole block is gone.
Right.
And it was an area that was pretty much, I'd say, 75% Republican, so you basically would notice that in that area. He said, so we got the cops involved, and sure enough, as they put the other signs out, the guy returned to the scene of the crime to take those out and got nabbed.
Wouldn't surprise me if somebody would then accuse he's working for the campaign, but I'm sure that's the last thing the campaign really wants.
Well, the joke was, boy, isn't Obama getting desperate? If they must be really worried they're going to lose with taking down these signs. And somebody else posted, it might have been me, that said, well, I guess this is one of those jobs that Obama's claiming he created.
By the way, earlier we had a caller talking about the unions and the turning away the electrical workers. And, there's an AP story that Jay, who was one of the first callers of the show today, posted to my Facebook page, and I read that during the one break. It appears it's not so clear-cut. The crew made it all the way to Virginia. They were given some paperwork. They wanted clarification on it because they felt like they were being told that they had to join the union. Chris Christie sang, the union sang, and their employer are all saying they were not turned away because they were non-union. There was just confusion by the crew, and they got bad information from somebody, and that, in fact, there are a pile of non-union workers up in New Jersey working on this stuff, even as we speak. Well,
I don't know. I mean, I heard reports yesterday, Con Ed people were getting eggs and everything thrown at them as they were working on...
So that's the Decatur utilities that set these guys up. So to be clear, no time where our crews turned away from the utility in Seaside Heights. So who knows where the politics may be, and is it possible that some rogue, guys said, "Hey, you're not union, we're not welcome," and then parked them? It's quite possible.
Yeah. Well, you bring up another good point that if Obama wins re-election, his appointments to the National Labor Relations Board.
Ooh, huge.
Exactly. Very huge. People who are fighting to be a right-to-work states and so forth, and how, we have one locally here. We have the Lancaster Symphony. They're 1099, and they were always said to be like contractors. Well, they wanted to unionize, and only like a fraction, but enough, had their case. This has been going on since 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's going back to federal court because the symphony's saying no, we don't agree with it. We're going to appeal the decision. And before this one guy, I'm being real loose with the facts here because I can't remember all of them. But the sketchy part of it is before one of the board members
right.
at the NRB, before he left at the end of the year, he just went ahead and the cases were sitting on his desk forever. But he was like the deciding vote. He just went ahead and voted pro-union on everything and walked to the door. And so there was a slew of cases that were handed down, like, hey, Merry Christmas, here
right.
you go. So yeah, there's a lot of that whole part, because if you start talking about employers, what they're going to have to do with health care, what they're going to have to do with pensions or 401ks or matching in 401ks, and the salaries they're going to have to provide and so forth, that changes the whole landscape. I mean, labor attorneys are like, go ahead, we're okay with it because you're going to need us more. But at the same time, you just got to scratch your head and say, is this the right thing to do?
I think there's big ballot issues on some issues involving unions and wages around the Midwest as well.
Yeah, I mean, you have people. I mean, what was it? Somebody when Boeing wanted to move everything to South Carolina.
Uh-huh.
Remember that's a pretty much of a landmark case.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
it's retaliation allegedly. So let's see here. Let's take a couple callers. What do I got here? Patiently. Matt, you're on the air. No, Mike. Mike, you're on the air.
How's Carl today?
Yep, this is Carl.
Hey, you look pretty good there on Facebook with that bow tie. But that's not what I called. Your previous caller, the guy that got stiffed out of $15,000 on the car, what the hell was he thinking to accept a personal check like that? I mean, did you ever hear of a cashier's check or a certified check? You can get them for a couple bucks.
Yeah, and
I never heard anybody accepting a personal check for $15,000.
And I almost got to think that maybe what we don't know is that he knew the guy real well and trusted him. So that's probably.
Oh well, that could be.
I'm guessing.
Doesn't make common sense.
I'm guessing. Otherwise, everybody's going to want to know the location of his business.
Well, yeah. Here, I got a few things I'd sell him, or buy from him.
Right, and yeah, that's a big piece piece of paper.
I think your listeners should know you can get a cashier's check or certified. I went to sell a motorcycle years ago. Guy was going to pay me cash. He said, "Would you take a check?" I said, "Sure." So we had set up to meet at the notary, and then I called him last second. I said, "Hey, I'm not taking a personal check." "Oh, okay, no problem. I'll get a cashier's check." So he changed it the next day. He didn't show, so he was going to stiff me. I mean, I never take anything unless any amount of. I mean, it's either cash, or a certified check. And
Right.
it's easy to get at the bank. You just go in there. I mean, it just guarantees that the check's good.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with online with these major purchases too. You gotta make sure you don't. I've had people send checks, send checks out to somebody for $3,000-$4,000, thinking they're going to ship them something they bought on eBay.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, really? You mailed that guy a check? And now you're wondering why you didn't get anything?
Yeah, I'll say. You given your preference to who you want to win the election? I know it's a personal choice.
Well, I Dick Morris last night had me convinced to vote for Romney. The answer is I think he's the lesser of the two evils. But I'm not excited about either candidate.
Well, me neither. I'll be honest with you.
I have real problem with Romney, and I'll tell you what my real problem with him is. He claims to be, an NRA pro-gun guy now, but he extended the Massachusetts assault weapon ban and said lots of nasty things about guns when he did it. He passed the health care legislation in Massachusetts, which was basically, in some ways, the model for Obamacare. And a lot of the apologists want to say, well, he's just, he's thoughtful and he's an evolving guy, okay?
Right.
Mitt Romney ran Bain Capital for years. Mitt Romney is a highly educated, highly intelligent individual who would have very well-formulated worldviews at any point. And it's possible they can change with time and with evidence. I don't doubt that. But it's been in a few short years, he's changed on so many issues in so many fundamental ways that I call horse hockey.
Yeah, that's
it's not like
noted in him a lot of things.
It's not like some rube, it's not like he was 19 6 years ago and he's a rube from some small town who's like, yeah, if we just bombed Hanoi in Vietnam, that would have been a simple war, and then goes to college for 4 years and starts to realize that the geopolitics were a little more complicated than that, and suddenly goes, I understand why we couldn't use nuclear weapons at this point because it would have led to a chain reaction, it could have ended the world, and suddenly you can explain that. But at this point in his life, for him to suddenly flip-flop on some of these issues, and particularly because he supposedly has a strong religious conviction, right?
Right.
And so theoretically, the anchor points of his life haven't changed any time recently. He hasn't had any epiphanies that he's made us aware of. He just evolved. And remember, the president was evolving on gay marriage, too. And whenever a politician tells you he's evolving, he means I'm flip-flopping as slowly as possible.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I see Obama winning, but in a close one. But I could be wrong. It's too bad we can't get two better people in there.
It's a representative democracy. Yeah. You only get the people who want to run. Remember that.
If Congress doesn't do anything, it doesn't matter who's in there anyhow. So nothing will get done if Congress doesn't get their heads.
I got to go to break, brother. Thanks.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Make it happen today and get free color samples, free shipping, and no sales tax in most states. Blinds.com, where prices crush home improvement store prices. Make it happen with the experts at Blinds.com.
Let's return to Weekend Appointment with Carl Rominger on WHP 580.
Hey, welcome back here. Carl Rominger here with Mark Virginis. Mark, what else you have for us? What other thoughts on the financial planning world that we need to be thinking about as we're getting around to the end of the year?
Yeah, with the financial cliff is a biggie, and because the financial cliff is coming, and because the tax rate's being set back, something that's near and dear to you guys there in the law office on the estate planning side.
Mm-hmm.
Federal estate taxes are going to change a little bit. I'm not hearing anything regarding. I'm not hearing anything in the State House about Pennsylvania inheritance tax yet, but we'll see how that shakes out in 2013. I don't even think it's on their agenda. I think they're more concerned with liquor stores and real estate taxes. But another strategy I'm telling folks is there are products that exist that allow you to collar or hedge against a loss within a portfolio that aren't so sophisticated that you just can't get your arms around them. Some insurance companies have stepped up and have done these structured capital investments where they would say, just to give you a brief example, it's a 5-year product. Within the 5-year product, you can pick 1, 3, or 5 years. But let's just say you pick 3 years. 3-year S&P 500. So 3-year S&P 500, this insurance company will go ahead and say, listen, we'll eat the first 10% loss of the S&P when your money comes in.
Right.
But over that 3-year period, the most you can make as a return each and every year is 7%. So if you're worried about there being a correction, i.e. 10% pullback, this might be suitable for a piece of or a portion of your overall portfolio. So you want to insulate, say, hey, I still want to make money if I can make money, okay, but I want to insulate because I don't know if 2008 is going to happen again.
Right.
I want to insulate on the downside. You can insulate 10% down, 20% down, or 30% down. Now, of course, the more you ask the insurance company to insure it, i.e. 30% down, the less the return they're going to offer you in that 3-year period. So if you want 30% down and you want to stretch it out to 5 years, instead of it being somewhere in the area of 7% return, and you want to go 30%, I'm just looking at a chart here real quick, you're probably looking at somewhere in the area of about 2.5% would be your cap.
Right.
So it wouldn't be very advantageous for someone to take it out 5 years, but if you want to see how this election turns out, the next election for the Congress and so forth, you might want to go ahead and do a 1 or 3 year collar just to make sure you're insuring some of your portfolio. But of course, there's prospectus and all that kind of stuff, good stuff that goes along with it. So folks can just give me a call, and I'll make sure they get any and all information they need to make that kind of decision. But that's just a strategy to say there's a whole world of uncertainty out there. I got to see how this plays out, this financial cliff. I know that stuff's real. I really don't want to make a move, but my gosh, if things fall off the abyss again and then we go back into recession, I can't handle another 15, 20% hit on my retirement. And I know I don't want to run the bonds and get 2%. I'd leave my money, but boy, what if I get some upswings along the way or things don't work out as pessimistically as I think they're going to. So, that's why they call it the stock market, right? That's why they call it gambling. But there's ways to ensure that you at least keep or you can actually have your money in the upswings when they come. So,
right.
But I just wanted to get that out to you.
Let's see here. I'll take a call. Bill or Rick? Rick.
Yeah, this is Rick.
Okay, Rick. What's going on?
Carl, I am concerned and wanted to know what your opinion is. There's thousands of relief workers and utility workers and Red Cross workers in the Northeast United States right now, and I'm pretty darn sure, being they're from all across the United States, that they will not make it back in time to vote for Tuesday, and that really has me concerned.
Yeah, that can be a problem. In some states, if they have early voting, maybe they could have voted before they left, or they could do absentee ballots. But since this wasn't something everybody was planning for, I would imagine that a lot of them ran out of town without getting it done. And
the other thing is, I think they're out of time for absentee ballots because usually you have to get a form sent to you, fill out, send back, and then they send you the absentee ballot, and then you have to send it back in. There's like 4 trips through the post office.
Yeah, and there was some research on extending the time to vote, and the answer is the states cannot accept a vote for the presidential election beyond Election Day.
That's very concerning.
Unless Congress extends it. Because, Election Day is not enshrined in the Constitution. It's a legislative act for the exact mechanism, and the Congress could extend it, but I don't think they ever have. If maybe one time it was talked about but not done. If I'm remembering my history right, it may have been done one time if it was, but that's it. As a general rule. So, I don't know. I think you're right. Now, of course...
I've seen utilities on 81 going up there from Florida, Alabama, all over the deep south, Texas.
Right.
There's thousands of people are up there. Not really, you're talking a good many votes there.
Well, if they want, they can vote in Philadelphia. They won't be turned away. Well, I know, but no, that's a good point, and I don't think there's a great solution for it.
And then on top of that, then you have the areas that are devastated. A lot of those polling places won't be up and running. I hear they're trying to do some temporary things. I'm not sure how effective that'll be, but it's just very concerning.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a wrinkle in the election. And, in fact, Dick Morris told us yesterday that is Hurricane Sandy is a wrinkle for anybody who's trying to figure out exactly how it's all going to play out, because it can make the president look very presidential, The flip side is he could get blamed for the gas shortages. So how it will play out in 3 days, no one knows. And we saw the New York City Marathon. They're going to have it, then they canceled it. Things aren't great there yet, but whether that'll affect the vote there or other places, I don't know. And I think the pollsters were saying it does throw them a curveball.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting. I had not even thought about that. How many people are out, moved out to vote? Now, of course, the interesting question is, it doesn't make a difference if the politics of the people who are out of town is roughly the same as the politics for the hometown, right? Because it's not going to change the percentage votes. But if the workers are mainly Democrats or mainly Republicans, then it certainly could change the outcome.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know what a utility worker from Alabama or a utility worker from another state, whether, is he a Southern Democrat? Is he a usually voting Republican in the presidential race? Is he a union guy like some of the other states? And he's going to vote mainly, Democratic in those states. I don't know.
And one other question about the election. Will Jerry Sandusky be eligible to vote?
He is not eligible to vote because he's a felon currently in prison. And so he can only have voted if he was a misdemeanor or if he had been released from prison.
Okay.
Yep, not eligible.
Okay, well, thank
All
you.
right, man.
Have a good day.
So, Mark, thank you very much. People want to find you. They can look on Facebook for Mark Virginis. We got all your contact information. Of course, we run the ad for you here on the show every week, too.
Yep.
Thank you very much, and I strongly encourage people to contact you.
Thank you very much, Carl. Appreciate the time, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, and vote early, vote often.
I will.
Talk
All right,
to you, man.
Take care, man.
Bye-bye.